31 minutes gone past 1, still 95.7. But at this time, the Tech Talk Wednesday show is here. And of course, Kazim is in the studio to take you through the program. If you missed out last week, well, I think you'll be nice enough to do some reintroduction on what he talked about and also take you through what he has for you this afternoon. Good to have you. How are you?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon and good afternoon, listeners. So you're welcome to the show again. Today is Wednesday, so the Tech Talk Show with Kazim is live on air now. So last week we did talk about the cloud models, cloud service models. And if you like to catch up on the past episode, the past edition of the show, so you might want to look on YouTube, for the past edition of the show. So it is Tech Talk Wednesday with Kazim on YouTube. So today we're going to be talking how to choose services to use on Azure. A number of time we're looking to leverage on services on cloud-based services, and we don't quite know, how best do I choose a service for myself or for my business. So that's what we're going to be learning about today. On Azure, there are a number of services that is running on Azure. So again, today we're going to be looking at how best to choose an Azure service, how best to choose the services that runs on the Azure cloud. And, there are a few questions also that we need to ask ourselves to better help us choose these services. So as a recap, we might want to ask, I like to believe that, there might be some people listening in today that, did not listen to the previous episode. So you might be wondering, what is Azure? So Microsoft Azure is a platform that Microsoft leverage, that Microsoft uses to put out, their cloud-based offerings to the public, just like we have some other competitors out there, some other cloud services. So the way Microsoft offers their own cloud services is via that platform known as Azure. So let's jump straight to those questions that we need to ask that will help us choose what services to run in the cloud. There are 4 of them. They decided to keep them to 4 on today's edition, just for the sake of time. So number 1 question is, how much control do you want to have? So when you want to choose a cloud-based service, it is best you ask yourself, how much control do I really need to have? Number 2 is, where do I want my application to run? Number 3, what usage model do I need? Do you want to use? What usage model do we want to use? And number 4, you need to ask, what functionality do you really need? What functionality are you looking to get from this particular service? So I said I've decided to keep it to 4, for the sake of time. So let's take a closer look at, each of those questions that I've just itemized now. For the first one, I mentioned the first one is, how much control do you need to have? There's no doubt that when we embrace the cloud, when you start to consume cloud-based services, you lose some control. At least, you no longer have the physical server in your control. So it's somewhere in the data center, with the providers. So you tend to lose that control. And, from the previous episode, I've walked you through the different models such as IaaS, infrastructure as a service, there's platform as a service, there's software as a service. So you really need to ask, how much control do you want to have? Knowing the control that you want to have would help you guide which of the cloud model to subscribe for. Is it going to be IaaS, that's infrastructure as a service? Infrastructure as a service, by the way, gives you the most control when you're consuming services in the cloud. There are times when you don't want to worry about the infrastructure, so you're only looking to get to work very quickly, like the developers like to do. They just want applications around them that they need to develop their softwares without having to worry about patching the systems. So for those kind of people, they're thinking pass. And, for the regular consumer, they don't want to worry about investing in infrastructure. They don't want to worry about applications. They just need these applications that they need to work, to do their day-to-day activities at work. So for those kind of people, they are looking, at software as a service. So you want to find this on my blog again, to catch up about the different models. So it is kazim.com.ng. Number 2 question is, where do I want my app to run? So there are 3 different options that we have here. There is the Azure public cloud. So if you want to build an application, you can decide to host it in the cloud. For instance, hosting it on the Azure public cloud. So if that doesn't work for you, or you're looking at saving cost, sometimes people save cost if they have a very huge amount of users. So they are probably looking to run it on premises. On premises is the traditional way we're used to running our applications, where we have servers on premises, and then we buy licenses, we install them on those servers, and then we can consume it from there. So the pitfall to that is that you need a place to keep your server. You need to make provision for powering the servers. You need to make provision for cooling the servers. You need to make provision for getting technical people to man those servers. So another option that we get is running it in an hybrid style. Sometimes people already have an on-premises infrastructure, but they've learned about some of the advantages that cloud computing offers. So they want to taste, but they don't want to, dip their 2 feet into the cloud. So they prefer to just, have a sense of what the cloud offers first. So for those kind of people, they can maintain their on-premises infrastructure and decide to move some of their services or a part of the services that they are running or they're using to run their business to the cloud. So that is an hybrid marriage. In the cloud, you have a leg in the cloud while you're still keeping on to your on-premises infrastructure. So that question is really also going to help. Number 3 question is, what usage model do we need? What usage model? By this, I mean, when we run application, there are certain applications that we need to be on 24/7 for us to get work done. But there are times when we need applications only on a need-to basis, right? So if I, for instance, need to have a website, my website needs to be on 24/7. So you never know when people are going to visit your website. So you need that website to be on all of the time. So that question is also really going to help. So example of a services or of a service, of an Azure-based service that you can use for that always on services is something called the Azure App Service. Azure App Service. So for Azure App Service, yes, in the cloud, you pay as you go, but there is this thing called the consumption plan. There's this app service plan that you need to subscribe to, and that is going to cost you some money, sometimes even when you're not using it. I mean, my website is there. I'm not using the website, but you never know when people will call for the website. So even though you're not using the website, but you're still paying for that service plan. You get the picture. So if you're talking about applications that you need on a time-to-time basis, on a scheduled basis, then you're looking at serverless computing. You're looking at what is called logic as a service, category of cloud-based service. I did not mention this in the last episode, but I have an article up already about it, so you can look it up on my blog. So there is that serverless computing. Serverless computing, it's slightly cheaper, when you compare it to the past, in the sense that you don't pay, you only pay when you call that application, when you use that application. Imagine having a website and you only get to pay when people people hit your website. So you don't get to pay when nobody is not connecting to that particular website. So that's what serverless computing gives you. And the last question here for time again is what functionality do I need out of the service? What functionality am I looking at here? So when you know the functionality that you are expecting, I think I should, cite an example. Let me try to connect the dot here with an example of a requirement. Say I have a requirement that I'm looking to meet, and the requirement is that, one, I have an application that must run in the cloud, and I'm looking at choosing Azure Cloud as my cloud. So I want to have an application, the application must run in the cloud. That's number one requirement for me. Number two requirement is that the application will run every 1 hour. So the application does not need to run all the time. So it only runs every 1 hour. So you see, based on this requirement now, you can further tailor down which application. It simply means that you go on the Azure platform, look up the available services, that you are going to save money, you're going to save cost on, and at the same time would suit your need, right? So from this particular example that I've given now, this sample requirement that I've given, you will notice that IaaS, the infrastructure as a service, is not going to, yes, it's going to meet our need, but when you go for infrastructure as a service, you end up paying too much, right? PaaS, platform as a service, is another option that we have. So with PaaS, you will also be paying a little bit more. So for this particular requirement, the best option, our best bet become doing serverless, looking at the Logic app as a service, category kind of application on Azure. And a very good example of this is what is known as the Azure function and the Logic app on Azure. So that's what we have. Those are the questions you need to ask. Once you ask, yourself or your provider or your techie people these questions, it will help guide your decision to choosing the right service that will meet your need and meet your business needs. So I think at this time, we should take a short break, and we'll be back in a bit.
The registration for 2020 WAEC, JAMB, and NECO is in progress. Are you looking for a stress-free way to have your registration? Search no more. Hurry now to Lasso CBT Center inside Lasso Main Campus or JAW. For further inquiries, call Temitope on 0908 789 9045 or 0901 853 9448. Lasso CBT Center is open for all. Come now for your registration.
All right, you're welcome back. So again, the topic today is how to choose services on the Microsoft Azure cloud. And I said, when you know what service to choose, it's going to help you save cost. It's going to guide your decision. It helps you save cost. And, to arrive at what service would best meet your need, there are a number of questions you need to be asking yourself, or you need to ask your provider or your technical. These questions we said include, one, how much control do you need to have? Do you want to have with that particular service? Number two is, where do you want your application to run? Do you want the application to run in the cloud? Do you want it to run on premises, or are you looking at an hybrid scenario? Number three question is, what usage model are you looking at? So are you looking at an always on kind of model, or are you looking at a pay as you go, pay per consumption is what it's called, kind of model? And I said number four is, what functionality are you looking at? So when you ask yourself these questions, is going to really help you making a better choice from those so many list of applications that you have running in the cloud. So
All
I
right.
think
If you want to join in the conversation, the phone lines is very open. The number to call is 0805 5555 957. 0805 5555 957. If you want to call in to ask Kazim some question on how best to choose a Microsoft Azure cloud, you can call into that number.
Okay, so when we're choosing a service, a cloud-based service, we shouldn't be choosing it because it's a service that we're familiar with, something we know about, or we know people to be using, others to be using. Instead, we want to be sure that we're choosing a service that is going to really meet our business need, or really going to solve our personal problems.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this question because I remember there was a time when, there was issues like this in which to use or which not to use.
Okay.
So let's say for a multinational company, like say a PwC now,
Okay.
And they need this internet because, of course, they need to have these providers for most of their staff. How do they get to know which works best for them?
Okay.
Because that's a large consumption.
Yes, very well. That's very true. In that case, they need to be sure that they are going with a provider that is reliable. And I'm sure, for that kind of very big organization, they are not just looking at cost alone. So they want to be sure that they are getting a support that they can really, that they can depend on. That's one. And the number of users they have will also play into the equation. They also need to be looking at cost, at the same time. And earlier on, I was talking about whether people want to do hybrid, whether you want to host it all in the cloud, or you want to keep some on premises, that's hybrid. Sometimes when you have a huge number of users, migrating all of those your users or all of those your services to the cloud might be considered very expensive. So you want to have a middle ground, where you move some to the cloud and then keep some on premises. Like I said, there are a huge number of services that you have running on Azure. It doesn't mean that, other cloud provider, might not satisfy their need, but they need to put pen to paper, ask a few questions, and then, from those questions, they should be able to come up with a provider that will best meet their need. I'll give another example. For some people, it might be a regulation requirement. They have a regulation requirement that whichever cloud provider we're going with need to have a data center in Africa, or need to have a data center in Nigeria. So you see, that is one factor that they cannot they need, that would inform their decision. It means that they need to narrow down the cloud provider to which one of them has a data center here in Nigeria to be able to go with. Yes.
Okay, so as a feedback on everything you've talked about, and coming from a very personal angle, I understand that of course you have to meet these people who would help you to know which of the one you're going to be using, what models you'll be using.
Yes.
But if I'm coming on a personal note to ask that, which of these plans would pay me? Let's say I'm a virtual worker. I'm someone who works around the clock, because of course there's no breaks. It's not like a structured environment where you know that at this particular time you're probably not using it anymore. You don't need all these things anymore.
Yes.
Which of this plan would you advise someone like me uses who is a virtual worker?
Okay. The good thing about cloud computing generally is that it makes you have the ability to telecommute, to work from anywhere. I mean, once you're doing cloud computing, all you need to be able to consume your services running in the cloud is internet access. So it means that you can be anywhere and consume the service. So maybe on the personal note, being an individual, you just need a service that works for just you. You should also be considering saving cost. So for you, it will be best you go with SaaS, software as a service. A very good example of that would be having an O365. We call it Office 365 subscription.
Okay.
So Office 365 subscription will cost you, let's say, $5 per month. So with that Office 365 subscription that is costing you $5 per month, there are a number of things you can do. You don't have to worry about using, we call this we call them Otigba softwares.
What's Otigba?
I'm sure the techie folks
exactly
listening
will know
know
that.
that. We have a place in the Keja, right?
Okay.
So where people get pirated softwares from. So
yeah.
if I need to have a Microsoft Office running on my computer now, Microsoft Word, Excel, I need to do presentation.
I remember, I think I used one of their services that time. Yeah, all those CDs. I think it's in CDs, right?
Yes, they usually have them on CDs. But we shouldn't be doing that as professional people, so we should not be violating copyright laws, so we need to make sure that when we're using those softwares, we're using the licensed copies of those softwares. So imagine if you need to do that, Microsoft Office, license is not as cheap. And that's all you get, the Microsoft suite of applications. How about if you need to collaborate? You want to leverage on an app that can allow you do calls, to your colleagues at the office or your colleagues at home. You just want to set up a meeting from wherever you are with your colleagues, with your business partners. So you're looking to invest on another application. You want to have a very cool, nice looking website. So you're looking to either contract it to some guy to help you develop, or you host it on the internet on WordPress. By the way, there's also WordPress service running on Azure. So you can see that all these different applications will start to cost you a lot of money. Whereas if you were to subscribe for O365, you get all those applications bundled under the umbrella of O365. So there's going to be Teams for you to leverage that you can use to collaborate. There's going to be SharePoint for you to build websites with. There's going to be Office that you can use on the go. And the cool thing with this Office license is that you can use it sometimes on about 15 devices. How cool is that? You have your mobile device, you have a laptop of your own, you have a desktop that you're using at the office. So you simply sign in and then stream down those applications and consume seamlessly.
Yes. Well, you've heard it from Kazim. Make sure that it's a licensed one that you're using. Try not to be those ones that he mentioned. Anyway, we have someone join us today, just like we had last week. It was a female. So today is a guy. So he's going to be introducing himself. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
What's your name?
I'm Oyindamola.
Oyindamola. All right. So do you have any question you would like to ask Kazim based on what he's talked about?
No, for now.
Okay. Why not? Okay, so
and perhaps I can also ask him if he's been picking up
of course,
few things
feel free to
from
so
the center. From
which
the
of
last
the what did you
facility
pick
center.
so far? What have you been able to pick?
Like from the CBT center, we register students for JAM and the like. So I've learned few communication skills, how to talk to people, how to communicate to them, not to soft skills, common soft skills. So it has been good actually, and I met few guys there.
Okay.
We're now colleagues. We now know each other very well, and we are
like
really
family now.
Connecting. Yeah.
Okay. So if you had to pick one or two things from what he said today, what have you been able to gather?
Okay. I noticed the topic you talked about today. That is how to
best choose the services,
yes,
Microsoft Azure Cloud services.
Most people
talk straight to the mic.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Don't worry.
Most people don't know about this if they're not these tech people.
Savvy.
So, and they don't know how to. Most of them have their businesses. They would like to do like this way, but they don't know how to go about it actually.
Exactly.
But I would like there to be like this thing.
Some sort of guide.
Not just exactly like a symposium.
Okay.
Like just to enlighten people more
on it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
I think Kazim has that in pen somewhere.
It's organizing one in Lasso. very soon.
Yes, we do that from time to time, meetups, tech meetups and boot camps. Most of the time, those meetups are even, organized for free.
Wow.
Looking to empower students, being in a university environment. So we do that from time to time.
All right, so keep listening to the Tech Talk Wednesday show, because if you don't listen, you just might not know when that will come up. So when you keep listening, you'll know when Kazim will be ready to train you on that one. But in final conclusion, Kazim, what do we have?
Yes, thank you for listening. So we'll just, I think next week we're going to be wrapping up with the cloud, and then it's going to be Power Platform all the way for the month of February. So if you need to catch up on the previous edition, please, look them up on YouTube. So the channel is Tech Talk Wednesday with Kazim, and you can also follow me on, my social media platforms. So it's still Tech Talk Wednesday with Kazim. And if you want to also catch the number of freebies that is happening at the LASU CBT Center, so please check the website. The website URL is www.lasucbt18.com.
All right. So you said you wrote an article, right?
Yes.
So where can we find that?
The article, even on today's show, so they can look that up on my blog, kazim.com.ng. So there's a link there, the blog link. And even a recorded version of the past show, they can find it on my blog too as well, kazim.com.ng. Then they'll find a link there, Tech Talk Wednesday.
All right, great. Thank you so much for today again. I mean, even if you're not a tech savvy person, I'm sure Kazim has a way of just breaking things down for you to very much understand. Anyway, that's a wrap for today. Next week again, we're going to be having the amazing Tech Talk Wednesday show. For now, the Launch Road Drive continues.
The registration for 2020 WAEC, JAMB, and NECO is in progress. Are you looking for a stress-free way to have your registration? Search no more. Hurry now to LASU CBT Center inside LASU Main Campus or JAW. For further inquiries, call Temitope on 0908-789-9045 or 0901-853-9448. LASU CBT Center is open for all. Come now for your registration.